What's going on, guys? It's Joe Farrell with Tactical Hyve, and today I'm bringing you a cool video about how to get into 3-gun. We're going to cover a bunch of gear. We're also going to talk about how you can upgrade your current gear if you're in 3-gun, and just some things to think about along the way. So before I dive into the divisions, if you want to look down in the description, there is a great gear guide that has a ton of information, links to get stuff, reviews and whatnot on the different types of gear. If you have any questions, hit that up. Also, feel free to shoot me a message on any of my social media platforms. Now, as we dive into the gear side of things, I want to let you know there's 3 primary divisions in 3-gun. You have TAC Ops, which is probably the most popular division. We have Limited and we have Open. All right, so TAC Ops is going to be where you have your typical rifle, AR-15 style rifle. You're going to be allowed to put one magnified optic on it. All right, you're going to be restricted to a tube-fed shotgun where you're going to be starting out with 8 rounds in the tube plus 1 in the chamber. And then your pistol can be pretty much anything as long as there's no optics or any compensator on it. So you can run just about any pistol out there. Limited is basically the same rules, except you can only have a 1X optic on there, so your red dot or even iron sights. When you get into Open, that's where gear gets really exciting. All right, Open is truly an arms race. With Open Division, you can run anything just about. You can run race pistols, you can run box-fed shotguns that are all got optics and compensators. You can run optics on your pistol, multiple optics on your rifle. So all that to say, basically, there are no rules as far as gear when it comes to Open. There's little things here and there, but look those up for the specific match, the rule set that you're going to be shooting, and make sure that you fall within that. Now, that being said, Open is a gear race. So if you're not running the top gear in Open, it's going to be hard to be really competitive in there. It's doable, but if you are going to be trying to win matches and be really competitive in Open, you need to have the right gear for that. So we're going to cover some of the different pieces of gear that I use and that I recommend people to use. Now, one of the big things that I will tell you is, for the most part, you can get away with what you've got right now, but there are 3 things that I want to make sure that you don't skimp on. Okay, number 1 is a shotgun. Buying a decent shotgun is probably one of the most important things you can do in 3-gun, because it's one of the most frustrating things when it goes down. So we want to make sure that when we buy a shotgun, it's a good quality, highly reliable, and then we get the work done by someone who's respected, someone who's actually going to do the work and going to be able to back it up. I use a Benelli M2 done up by Dissident Arms. They do all the loading port, all the customization on the shotgun itself, and it really helps to have all that done professionally. However, you can do, there's a bunch of options. There's lots of different shotguns out there. You got Beretta 1301, you've got the Stoeger M3K. If you're on a budget, it's a really good option. But I want you to really do some research. And if you have any questions, like I said, hit me up anytime. So the next thing that I want to make sure you buy once, cry once on is a good optic. Now, optics are one of those things that once you buy it, you're pretty much always going to have it. You can replace it with something better down the road, but you don't want to go super cheap on it, because it's another thing that can really be frustrating. When we're looking at optics for 3-gun, most common use is a 1:6, 1:8, 1:10 variable zoom optic. So right now I'm running the Vortex Razor Gen 3 1:10. This is top of the line, right? It's a very pricey optic, obviously, but it's one of those things that you can, I'm never gonna have to replace that, right? That's gonna last me my entire shooting career. If anything ever were to happen to it, I mean, even if I dropped it off of the back of a truck and cracked the lens, I could ship that to Vortex, they'll replace it. If you're on a budget, I'd recommend looking at the Vortex Viper PST2. That's a 1:6 optic. It's got a very good field of view, good illumination reticle inside, and you're gonna be able to run that for a long period of time. If you ever need to upgrade, or if you're ready to upgrade to something higher end, you can also use that on another rifle without any issues. So the next thing that I want to make sure you really put good money into is a belt system. The belt system is important because we use this every match, right? You're always going to have this belt on. You're going to have the gear that you've got on there, and it's important to make sure that you're consistent with it. You don't want to be just attaching stuff to a normal belt, having that stuff slide around, having different gear setups every time you go to the match. I like to have this the same way every time. So I use a Safariland ELS. I like the ELS clips on here because if I don't need my shotgun caddies, all I do is I pop them off and then I just have my pistol mags. If I need to shift gear around a little bit, I can do that. If I don't need my pistol for a stage, I can take this and pop the whole holster off and put it in my bag. Now, when you're doing that, make sure at a match, and this is just kind of like a little side note, make sure if you're gonna take your pistol off, you're doing it in a safe area or under an RO supervision, your range officer supervision, you'll be all right. But having the versatility of being able to swap gear around on your belt, having a good belt that's sturdy, that's not gonna flop around on you, those things are really important. Having good mag pouches that aren't gonna let the magazines fall out, but it will still allow you to access them quickly. These are all important things. Good holster is also important. You wanna make sure that you're getting something that's number one, designed for your gun and not going to let it fall out, okay? As we're running in 3-gun, one of the most common disqualifications I see at matches is people having a pistol fall out of their holster as they're running with a rifle or a shotgun. Unfortunately, that is a match DQ and you're gonna get sent home. It's not a good feeling. But what you want to do is you can either get a hooded holster, something with a locking mechanism. I have my own line of holsters through Priority One, and the way that we design that holster is so that it has a very easy draw, but it also locks in when you're twisting it. That's very helpful. Another quick thing that I recommend is looking at a ratchet system for your belt. This allows me just to take the belt on and off very easily, and it's not going to slide off. The Velcro is not going to come undone. It's not going to let my belt come undone while I'm running. Seen it happen. It's kind of funny, but not if it's happening to you. So keep that in mind. There's little upgrades like that all through this type of gear, but you want to invest into a good belt system. Get good shell caddies, get good holster, get good mag pouches, get a good belt that you can keep it all on while you're running a stage. All right, so we've covered the different divisions and some of the things that you can do to make sure that you have the right gear, but depending on the gear that you already have, you may be already set to go shoot a match right now. I want to make sure that you understand that you don't have to go spend $10,000, $15,000 on gear. If you've got a SIG or a Glock or a basic AR-15, even a basic shotgun, you can even go get started now. I want to encourage you to look into that. See, the sooner you can start, the sooner you'll know what you really need. Couple things on a rifle that you want to upgrade to really make sure that it's 3-gun ready is you want to have, number one, a good optic, which we already talked about. Number two, a good compensator. All right. There's a ton of compensators on the market. The main thing is we want to focus on making sure that it actually does its job and that you understand the recoil pattern that it does. So the one I'm running is the Tactical Rage compensator. It's actually tunable for your rifle and your shooting style. It makes it so the muzzle doesn't move when you're running the rifle. So I can shoot really quickly and not have anything bouncing around. The other important part is a good trigger. So a good trigger is going to help you shoot those long range stages much more effectively. It's going to help you shoot a lot faster as well on the up close paper. It's just going to give you a lot more consistency across the board than some mil-spec trigger that you've got in there on a stock AR. So the three things that I really recommend that you get for a good 3-gun setup is a good compensator, a good optic, and a good trigger. Those are crucial to making any rifle 3-gun ready. A couple other really helpful things that I would definitely recommend that you look into, and you don't have to buy a whole bunch of them, but magazine extensions. When you're looking at the 3-gun stage and you've got 20, 22 rounds of pistol on a stage and you've got a 17-round mag, that means you're doing a reload where other people may not have to. So look at magazine extensions. Pistol mags, you may need 1 or 2 of those that maybe that's your primary mag that you use when you have those longer stages. A rifle magazine extension is helpful, or you can get maybe a PMag 40 rounder. Also, the Magpul D60s are pretty awesome too. Like, I don't ever reload my rifle pretty much anymore just because there's so many rounds now in those magazines. So now that we've covered the equipment portion pretty well, and like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out or download that gear guide down below. We're gonna dive into how do you actually train and find matches. So training is one of those things that we have so many different things to work on. It's hard to pick out what exactly you need to work on in the moment. And that's one of the beauties of 3-gun in the first place, is there's constantly something else that you're lacking in, that you need to put work into, and it keeps you on your toes. It always gives you something new to train on. So dry fire is gonna help you a lot, but how do we dry fire? So there's a lot of different ways, and the biggest things that I work on in dry fire is manipulations of all 3 guns, reloads on all 3 guns, and just getting comfortable with transitions. So I target transitions and gun transitions. I have a full 30-day dry fire series that I'm gonna link down below as well, and you can look at that. And we also do remote training. So if you have any questions on actual drills that you need to run, stuff that you're working on, hit me up and I can help you with that as well. When it comes down to actually training for it, getting to the range, getting into a class if you can. I do classes all over the country. Hit me up, we can set something up with your local range. But getting to the range is tough, especially when you're taking all 3 guns. make sure you have a plan before you go to the range. So pick out a drill or two or three that you want to make sure that you're focusing on, typically on areas in your game that you were lacking at the last match or that you know that you need to work on as you come into the next one. So if I needed to work on shotgun a little bit more, I'm going to grab my shotgun specifically. I may not even bring my rifle to the range, but I'll grab my shotgun, grab some rounds for that, maybe do a pistol transition stuff as well. But I'm going to have a plan before I show up to the range. When you have all these different gear options to work on, you can get pretty lost pretty easily. So have a good idea of what you want to accomplish, have a goal for it, and then knock that out once you get out there. There are also a lot of resources online, lots of people putting drills out on Instagram and YouTube, and you can check those out as well. Keep in mind that a lot of that stuff is tailored for that type of content. Don't necessarily use those part-times for your own game. Kind of figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Get some good advice from high-level shooters. You don't want to necessarily go to the bottom-level shooters to get your advice on how to train. Okay, I highly encourage you to get good shooters. That's why you're here today, right? On the Tactical Hyve, getting good information from other good experts. When it comes to actually finding a match, that is where things can be a little bit complicated. So there's a couple of places out there that you can look up matches. Number one is Practice Score, okay? Practice Score is where most matches upload all their scores, and they're gonna have a lot of registrations on there where you can go onto that website, look up the matches in your area. You can actually search by your city or state zip and find matches in your area that you can go to. And that's not just 3-gun matches, that's also Steel Challenge, USPSA, IDPA, PRS, like there's all sorts of matches on there, and a lot of people upload matches and scores to that website. Another place, Tactical Hyve. You're already here, you're checking it out now. If you go to the Tactical Hyve forums, we're gonna have a link on there on the forums to a forum page that you can start looking up, and people will post matches in their local area. You can ask, hey, does anybody know of any matches near me? And we can help you out with that. The last one is Facebook. There's a lot of information on Facebook events and Facebook. Some of the big matches have full pages on Facebook, and there's a lot of groups on Facebook too for 3-gun information, events, and gear conversation there too. So try those 3 different places. If you have any questions on your local area, feel free to hit me up. I can usually put you in contact with somebody that's nearby, at least hopefully somewhere in the same state. So if you have any questions beyond that, feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. Shoot me a message, follow me on social media, and I hope to see you guys on the range soon.